Can we talk a little bit about the way you sit at the piano and your touch?
Okay.
I'm very inspired by your touch and the way it sounds when you play the piano. And the way you sit at the piano, to me, looks super effortlessly, and using a lot of body weight and the weight of your arms, not a lot of finger movements. And so I'm interested in the inside view of that. This is how it looks to me and sounds to me.
Ah, okay. Well, as far as the touch is concerned, that's something that, most pianists who have ever studied piano with a teacher, that's the first thing you work on is the sound.
Mm.
All other instruments, that's what you do. When play, everybody has fundamental things that allow for there to be a projection of the sound with the least amount of effort.
Yeah.
And a lot of people skip over that when they're playing piano. They skip that part. They press the key, a sound comes out, they're okay with it. But the teachers that I had were about the quality of the sound that comes out. So learning to play and each digit of your fingers on your hands be capable of producing a particular kind of sound allowed for you to get more expression out of the piano. Anybody can get a sound out of the piano. You press the key, you get a sound. But when you can control the sound that you get and use the instrument the way that it is meant to be used, where something hits a string at a particular pressure, it vibrates, it resonates inside of that box,
Mm-hmm.
and then goes out. And when you realize that and you can learn to control some of that, it allows for you to be able to be big or small with what appears to the eye to be minimum effort. But it's all in what you learn to do with your hands and playing a lot of scales.
Mm.
A lot of scales and a lot of arpeggios where you hold yourself accountable for every single note. It is painstaking and we hate it.
Mm-hmm.
But it is really the best way to play, to get a sound and to play slowly.
Mm-hmm.
You know how to learn to play really fast? Play really
Yeah.
slow. And then you can play fast. A lot of it is muscle memory, but most of it is your ear and learning that you can control it and then holding yourself accountable to be able to get the sound that you want. That's a big overview. My situation in particular is because my hands are very small. So when I would go to my piano lesson and I'd hear people playing Beethoven and Brahms and, things
Mm-hmm.
that sounded so sonorous and beautiful chords. And my teacher for years had me working on Bach, Mozart, Haydn.
Yeah.
And then gradually, because it was about building a certain kind of muscle control,
Mm.
in my hands, and also to help me understand how the instrument also sounds. So when I play whatever kind of music I'm playing, so much of the sound, it sounds really rich, and I'm not really playing that many notes. It's using the idea of the sound hitting that box and resonating with other sympathetic strings. And it was a lot of years of feeling like I was having to deal with all of these little minute situations, but it paid off in the end because in creating music, and then when I moved to different instruments, to Rhodes, for example, or clavinet, I didn't have to. I didn't have to make. I made adjustments because they felt like different instruments. I
Oh,
didn't
they
take
do.
my
Yeah.
I didn't take my piano technique to those instruments. I modified that idea of creating a sound
Yeah.
to those instruments. So it was very helpful.
Yeah. That's something that I think about sometimes, where if you're playing a lot of electronic instruments, there's a risk of losing that control that we have over the piano, but realizing that it's a totally different instrument, and each one of those with their different actions and sizes and whatever requires for a new attitude and for a new approach.
Exactly. And I think that that's what has, for me anyway, made it easier to go from one to the other without losing the idea of the sound that I want to create on each one.
Mm. How about when there's like no how do you call this, when the sound is immediately there, like on an organ, or on a certain kind of synth or whatever. How do you deal with that situation?
It's an adjustment.
Yeah.
It's an adjustment from the standpoint of when you touch it, what's going to happen. And also what's different about some of those instruments, when you play the piano, you feel it all up. You feel it.
Exactly. Yeah.
You feel a vibration of, and some of the instruments, electronic instruments, you don't get that.
Yeah, maybe from a Rhodes and
from a Rhodes
things.
A little bit.
Yeah.
But again, for me, the best way psychologically it'd be the difference between playing a flute and a bass. They're both instruments and they both play notes.
Yeah, yeah.
But you don't approach them the same.
Yeah, that's true. Just a quick question about the Rhodes, actually, because I've played many Rhodes throughout the years, and I always love the sounds on the records, but I feel like my theory is that they used to sound even better when they came out and were fresh and new. Like when my I often think about Thrust, the Herbie Hancock album, and how great the Rhodes sounds in that room and on that record. I've never heard a Rhodes sound like that. Also, it is the player, but I've never heard a Rhodes sound quite like that, for real.
Yeah. Well, Herbie used a suitcase model that had the speakers in it, and he replaced the speakers that were in there.
Replaced them with what?
JBL speakers. I did the same thing to mine.
Oh.
After I heard he did that, I said, "Oh."
Aha, interesting.
That was part of it. In terms of live, that was what helped that. And then, again, it's the player. His touch is very even.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things about a Rhodes, that when it wears, you want it to wear evenly. The use of it be even. Most people don't have this under control, and it doesn't wear evenly. Mm-hmm. So you get notes that don't pop, that pop out. Also, a lot of people tried to manipulate the sound so much. The reason that they sounded better, that people didn't put so much, now you can get the tine sound and this sound and put the chorus on it and blah, blah, blah. How about it when it was just that, and that the most effect that you could add would be the vibrato switch, where you would have it on or off.
Yeah.
The other thing that I learned, that I preferred the sound when the vibrato was always on and turned all the way down. It offered a certain kind of movement and warmth.
Yeah.
That also helped the lines come out and things like that. So there were all these little things that happened. But as we always do, we find out, I can put a this on it or a that on it, and I can change this and change that. And as that happened, then the sound became very different. And for certain kinds of things, people wanted a more brighter sound or a bell sound. The sounds of Chicorea on Rhodes is very different from the sound of Herbie on very different from
Bill
George
Evans.
Duke, and very different from Bill Evans, and very different from anybody who played it. They had their preference in terms of how they wanted to hear stuff. And it was the first time that we could actually manipulate the sound of what we were playing as a keyboard instrument.
Yeah, I love your sound on the Rhodes. I just wanted to say that. Also,
thanks.
like today I was listening almost on repeat to Before the Dawn, the album, but also the track, and I was starting to transcribe it, and I'm a bit curious about your view on what the time signature is and how it goes back and forth, or does it stay in one thing? To me, I heard it in 3 and in 6, going back and forth, and then the solo in a slow 3. But I wonder what your view is on that, and I just love that song so much, and would love to know as much as I can about that.
Well, actually, the first part of it with the bass line, I don't really remember. I think it's in 9, but I think I divided it so that it feels like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So it does. Okay. So the subdivision is a little different, but the whole thing, you're right. The whole thing is really in 3.
Yeah,
it's different iterations of 3. So sometimes that 3 takes the form of 3 as a half. as a half time,
Mm.
and sometimes it takes the form of, each beat this way. But
Mm-hmm.
it's all based in you're right. It's all based in the concept of the manipulation of three.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Beautiful song.
Thank you.
Did you play it live a lot?
I did. I did when that album was released. I did a few concerts here and there, and I did play it. And a lot of times when I was maybe a guest lecturer or teaching in school, the students wanted to play it because it's
Mm-hmm.
an unusual. That's an unusual ensemble grouping for them.
Mm.
And to hear again, you were talking about the colors, to hear that and to work that into the concept, plus the rhythm section having to obviously manipulate the idea of that feeling in three. Um, yeah, a lot of people like to play it.
It's also, I love about your music that in a lot of pieces there are your, I feel like the melody or the rhythm of the music dictates sometimes the time signatures. So you allow for odd time signatures even within a piece at little moments for to get to a new section or something. Because so it's not like that, but it's like it moves like life, where things aren't always the same. So
Mm-hmm.
I really love that aspect about your music.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, when you learn music, it gives you a language that allows for you to be able to replicate that feeling. So I don't think of it necessarily as a math problem. It is the flow. But when you get ready to write that flow down, you have to have something to be able to put it into time. The best example I can say of that, where people are not aware of flow, is in film music.
Mm.
Everything to the millisecond is dictated by what you see on film and what is passing in time.
Mm.
And it's lots of little pictures edited together, but what keeps the idea of it being one thought or one situation or one atmosphere is the music, because the music is this way, it's linear.
Mm.
But in order to write it down, you have to put it into a time signature. So the idea of learning to write it down so that it can be played doesn't necessarily mean that it sounds like it's not metered, and vice versa. So your point is that sometimes there will be this odd bar of 7 because it flows better into whatever's coming next.
Yeah.
It happens to be 7, but you're not supposed to sit there and go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Oh, unless you're trying to write it down or explain it.
Mm.
And the fact that you don't feel it, that's when it works. I mean,
Yeah.
it's happening, and it seems organic, and you're not aware of it. I tend to not really enjoy music that sounds like a math problem.
Yeah, same.
I don't really enjoy that. It's just a preference that I have, where some people, they get really into, well, I'm going to write it in this meter because that would be so cool. And maybe it is cool. But if you're not the one playing it or deciphering it, and you're the one experiencing it, then how cool is it?
Mm-hmm.
So it's not just a time signature for time signature's sake.
Exactly.
It is about using that as a means by which your idea flows.
Yeah, it has to serve the music, not the other way around.
Always.
And that's the cool thing about Before the Dawn. It's like I've been listening to this song and this album for a long time. Today was the first time. I always knew that the solo is in 3,
Mm-hmm.
but today was the first time I was like, where I was thinking, hold on, what is this actually? what are we feeling here? Where is, and then I was trying to play along with it, and it was so much fun playing through those colors. And then I was still feeling it, but not thinking about it. But it was, since I had been listening to it for a long time, I could fit in a way.
Mm-hmm.
When I was trying to start writing it down, I was like,
What?
I need to talk to Patrice.
Yeah.
Yeah, so thank you. Thank you
You're
for that.
welcome. Thank you.
Um, I'm wondering what because on is it on Patrice where you started singing, or was it shouted out?
Actually, I think it was shouted out. I sang one song called Let Your Heart Be Free.
Right. Okay.
And, you know, I would do some background vocals and things like that. But in terms of a lead, that was maybe the first one. And then when I went to Elektra, they wanted more vocal stuff. The idea was that at that time, they saw the possibility for there to be, there were people that came from the tradition of jazz who also had commercial sensibilities. And they were looking to kind of put that together. So I was signed to Elektra same time that Lee Ritenour was signed there, Lenny White was signed there, Dee Dee Bridgewater, Grover Washington Jr., and Donald Byrd and his group, the Blackbirds. And the idea was that to them, we represented this generation that came from the tradition of jazz, but was young enough to be able to understand commercial sensibilities and could find that common ground in our music. So that was the idea, and then they wanted, you know, more songs and more things that allowed for that to happen.
Right.
So it was perfect for me because I was kind of headed in that direction just kind of naturally by being able to enjoy what I did about, you know, grooves and dance music, you know, just socially going out playing, singing, you know, doing things, learning songs, but meld that with a high aesthetic in terms of a quality of what was happening and arranging. It gave me a chance to, the budgets were bigger, so it gave me a chance to, you know, write for horns and write for strings in ways that I hadn't done before.
Yeah, and on these records, what I really like is, though it's maybe you're talking about the commercial aesthetic or sensibility. What I love is about this music makes you want to dance. Although I'm not a dancer, but you know, I feel it. But what I'm trying to say is, you always keep the listener engaged. So there's always something happening. There's always a little thing where you're like, this is for the people who are really listening closely. You always have something there. You always keep the listener engaged, and I really, really love that.
I think that's something that came out of listening to so many artists who participated also in the commercial world. And now, when I say that, they may have been studio musicians or producers. And one of the things that I learned by playing in the studio and playing on records with, you know, artists that were, you know, famous for having singles out and things like that, was that you're not worried about the person listening to it the first time. You want them to still hear something and enjoy it the 1,000th time that they've heard it. That there's I never heard that before, or oh wow, I never really paid attention to how that goes, or that's when you really have something. And Quincy Jones used to call things like that ear candy.
That's nice. Yeah. Yeah, I can relate to that. That's nice. What I was going for when I asked you about singing is, I'm curious what the focus, or that new additional focus on singing taught you about playing.
Well, I think I came at it from the standpoint of, rather than being a singer, and from the standpoint of being an instrumentalist who also could use the vocal as a sound to offer you know, a song or offer a piece. Now that came from, I think, my orientation towards composition. All, we were talking about colors earlier. All of those colors, the voice is obviously one too. It's the one that most people, when they're playing, they're trying to emulate that same kind of quality in whatever instrument they play. So when I was brought into the vocal realm, I was thinking more in terms of, okay, I'm writing a song, and one of the best ways to uh, offer that part of the story is using vocals. So, and I came at it like that. I didn't consider myself a singer per se, but I could get my point across.
Oh yes.
And I liked to do it, so I
Yeah.
did it. Um, but as time has gone on, and now, especially now, uh, when I revisit those songs, as I'm doing in concerts that I've been doing, over the last couple of years, now I have to pay attention a little better because I know more. Pay attention a little better to what's going on vocally that is allowing it to happen and try to make it better. The quality of my voice, and you get older, your voice changes. So to be able to maintain a certain kind of style or maintain a certain kind of energy, now I really take it a lot more seriously. I think from teaching and working with vocalists and seeing the kinds of rigors that one who's serious about that goes through in order to maintain your voice, because unlike other instruments, your voice is going to change moment to moment to moment to moment. You don't know what you have on any given day. And in a studio, you just need to get it right once.
Mm-hmm.
But live, whole other animal.
Mm-hmm.
So I learned to manipulate my voice in the studio pretty well, and now transferring some of that into the live space has definitely made me pay a different kind of attention to the vocals.
Mm-hmm. What about the singing quality? I mean, you've always had that when you played the piano, but I'm curious, like spending more time singing, what it has taught you in terms of singing when you're playing lines on the piano.
It's it goes back to that flow.
Mm-hmm.
It goes back to it being a different instrument, and you are trying, at least with myself, I'm trying to offer some of the same kinds of information artistically. And, at this point, I'm singing one note at a time, but it fits into a harmonic consciousness. Sometimes it takes the role of the rhythmic space. Vocals move around in terms of their role in the overall arc of the song. Sometimes they're really long against that. Sometimes they're very punchy to augment rhythm. Other times they go back and forth and they use space. And because of the way that people sing, the vowel sounds, I mean, there's a lot that goes into it that we take for granted, because most people sing a little bit and they take it for granted that part of why they enjoy what it is that they're singing has to do with things that are not always about the act of the singing. A songwriter really focuses on the vowel sounds, really focuses on the rhythm of the lines they want you to remember. A good songwriter finds that, and that's what we as listeners enjoy, and then it makes us want to participate. But the craft of doing that is, so to your point in your question, I would say that the vocal awareness made me that much more conscious about form and about the story and how to best deliver. You lead me up, and that chorus has got to mean something. And, so it's there's definitely craft and skill involved in it when it's successful.
Greetings. My name is Sam Amadon, and you are experiencing the Pablo Held Investigates podcast. And I am experiencing the Pablo Held Investigates podcast as I do every week. It's such a beautiful thing to be able to go so deep with Pablo and the musicians he talks to. I go back and forth between the conversation, and I'll pause and go to listen to the musical examples, and then I'll return to the conversation. It's profoundly beautiful and enriching. And if you connect with this podcast as much as I do, I highly recommend that you support Pablo on Patreon, because it keeps the podcast going and it provides a whole backdrop to a whole other dimension of the investigation. There's two tiers. There's a general listening podcast supporting tier, which has background materials and other stuff around reflections on Pablo's listening. And then there is a more of a practicing instrument lesson type tier, which is even deeper and more specific. I hope you support it and check it out, because these are the kinds of things that keep the world turning at this time in our universe. See you out there in the investigation zone with Pablo.
I really loved the episode with you on the Questlove podcast, and especially that moment where you talked about rehearsing with Prince for the SNL performance of Electric Chair, and you said that Prince was rehearsing for that 3-minute thing for 10 days with the group, and you came in after 3 days or something.
Yeah, I came in later.
And I'm curious about how he was like in the rehearsal, and what you think he was looking for, and what kind of advice he was giving to the band when he was rehearsing for that long on a piece.
Mm-hmm. By the time I got there, which was just a few days before we left Minneapolis going to New York to shoot SNL, by the time I got there, they had flushed out just about everything that I guess he wanted. So what I did notice, though, in the rehearsal is that he listened to everything. And he's playing, but he's paying attention to everybody else and what is happening. One of the things that I also watched for was that, you had different levels of, not of musicianship, because everybody was a great musician, but you had different levels of the way in which people communicated their ideas. So there was some where you could say, D7, and they would know exactly what you did, and put the 7th on the top. They would know exactly what you meant, or put the 3rd on the top. And there was had no idea of that, but they knew what you wanted, or you could sing what you wanted, and they could play that. So you had this mixed bag of people who had certain kind of languages and music literacy in terms of that. So one of the things that I think made it such that they had to rehearse for a long time was balancing that. And because this was also a situation where most likely, and I can't guarantee that this was the case, but most likely, he wrote the song, he was able to play a lot of instruments. They were probably listening and then using that as their common point of reference in order to come together for him to shape it into the performance that he wanted to be and to get the band tight. And for some people it took, especially one who's very meticulous like that, and very stylized.
Yeah.
It would take that much time. I understand that now. At the time, I was like, why are you taking so long? But I get it now.
Yeah.
I get it now. And I respect the fact that he was willing to take that kind of time, because, again, the piece was very stylized, and everyone had to come to it at the time that they did, and then it had to get tight and organized and like that. So,
and it's also a powerful performance. We can still see it on YouTube. It's incredible how tight it is also. But also how much is still breathing. It's not tight in a straitjacket or anything. It's like it's that paradox of tight and loose at the same time.
Exactly. Well, he had that worked out. That was part of the magic in his mastery.
I've listened to the symphonic works on your website. Thank you so much for sharing this on the website. This is incredible.
Yeah, a lot of people don't know that side of me, so that's a good place to have it, so that people get intrigued. Hopefully, they're maybe browsing the site, looking for something else, and then find that out about me.
Yes, so. Beautiful. One of my favorite movements is from that. I think it's the second movement from. I think it's called The Dreamer Cometh.
Oh, yes.
I really love this.
Oh.
Can you tell me a little bit about the writing process for that?
Oh, yeah. Well, that's the second movement of a suite for Martin Luther King. And it was a commissioned piece for a youth orchestra. And when I was asked to do it, I said, well, what do you need? And they said, well, we want an orchestral piece that doesn't have the need for any outside soloist, no vocal soloists or other. We want something that focuses on the orchestra, that offers something about Martin Luther King. So most of the kids who were playing it, they never seen Martin Luther King. They don't know who that is. He's a historical figure that they respect, but they don't know why. It's just that they're supposed to. And so when I was working on the piece, I was a little kid during the height of the civil rights movements in the States. And so I remembered certain things about the sound of his voice and certain pivotal moments that happened in his life. And I chose to use that as the moods for the three movements. And The Dreamer Cometh comes out of the time that he spent in jail at a pivotal point when he was, as a human being, just wondering, wow, have I gone too far? Have I done the right thing? So many people are hurt. So many people are dying. This movement is important, but how far should I take it? And he was getting both positive and negative feedback from people of the clergy. And that movement is about that angst that I am sure that there was this push and pull between the longer, more important long-term goal and the immediacy of what was happening right around him with people who were suffering on the basis of this long-term goal. And he was more or less the face of that movement. So that's what that movement is about.
Yeah. It's also powerful how you incorporate his voice into the performance. And it's really beautiful music and lots of colors that the thing is, what you've offered to the world is so rich, like the whole spectrum of what you've done is so rich in colors. But in certain things we hear certain colors, and in certain areas we hear other colors. And this was a color that I kind of heard here and there, maybe in your writing for more improvised oriented settings, but not in this format, not in this grand format. And especially that movement had some really, really dark colors that sometimes reminded me a little bit of Henri Dutilleux and Stravinsky here and there. And I couldn't stop listening to it. It's so beautiful.
Oh, fantastic. Well, thank you. I'm glad you were able to listen. And I'm really glad you enjoyed it.
Oh, yeah. Also, there's another one, the Andante movement from one of the other symphonic, like this slow movement, which is a total contrast to that. It's also a slow movement, but it has certain other story to tell.
Sometimes, I think you might be speaking of the piece Symphonia.
That's it, yeah.
And sometimes when I get to the slower movement, the second movement, moving a little bit slower allows for you to digest certain kind of colors because there's just more time.
Yeah.
And so for me, I enjoy that kind of painting.
There's another thought that came up. You're writing on this about this. You're writing for this symphonic piece right now. Are you working on the computer? Are you working at the piano? How do you do it?
All of it.
Okay.
I never know where the idea is going to come.
I see.
Right? So I show you here, I got books and stuff over here. See the CP70 right there?
Yeah, I see it.
On top of that is some score paper and a pencil.
Nice.
And then I might move over here to the computer. I do use the computer in order to write it down to make the scores and stuff like that. So I'm here. But for me, most of the time, I'll make a sketch on paper.
Yeah.
It will not be, the whole orchestra. It'll just be maybe 6 staves of the ideas, that I have and the things that I want to do and the idea of how things are going to flow with the story of the piece.
Yeah.
And then I'll go back and I'll orchestrate it. When I orchestrate, then I'm working on the score. And instead of where I used to write on score paper and then have that transferred to publishing software, for engraving purposes, I skip that step now, and I go, when I'm orchestrating now, I'll go right to the computer and orchestrate on the computer.
And you
but
listen,
it's
do you
really
listen back, or
sometimes.
Mhm.
Well, I want to check to make sure accidentals are in the right place and stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
But I learned in learning to write, for me, especially learning to write for other instruments, one of the things that my orchestration teacher emphasized was only use the piano as a tonal reference. Don't write at, if hear what you are writing for, and then find that on the piano. There's some people have perfect pitch or whatever, but find that on the piano so that you know it'll work. Check yourself in terms of registers. The piano is the entire range of the orchestra. It's the whole thing.
Yeah.
So, but you can't play it like that. So instead of thinking of the piano as the instrument that you and I know it to be and the sound of it, unless you're writing for that, you just use it as sort of your way to check what it is that you're hearing up here, and to know, okay, that's going to work. Yeah, that's fine. And
that's great advice.
Yeah, don't. I always tell my students, when they're learning to arrange, and I said, don't arrange at the piano and only play what you can play, because most of them are not pianists anyway. I said, hear the instrument that you want, and then hear that sound, imagine that sound in your head, and then find those notes. And that's what you do, So I'm sitting around sometimes, or air guitar. I'm doing all kind of the air moment for the idea, and then what note, what chord is that? Bang. Okay, cool. That's the rhythm I want. I do that all the time. That's another reason why I work in this space, because then I can jump around and look really crazy.
Yeah.
Playing my air instruments. But that's the same thing. Well, even in writing, now, as a person who was very interested in composition and orchestration, I did learn the ranges of the instrument and sort of the mechanics. So I have those mechanics as knowledge. But in terms of how I use those mechanics to get the idea across, oh man, I'm in here pretending I can play everything.
Yeah.
And for me, that tends to keep the music open and help me get at what it is that I thought I wanted. Now, some things work better than others, of course. But I listen to a lot of wonderful orchestration you mentioned Stravinsky, and man, you look at some of that stuff and you go, really? How did you think of that? Debussy, Ravel, Brahms. And I see that. Quincy Jones charts, Ellington charts, Thad Jones, Gerald Wilson. I looked at those things, Melba Liston, and I said, wow. And, that was part of the vocabulary that I was trying to absorb for what I thought I wanted to do. Which was to be a film composer.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah. I think that's what you've put on your website is the best. How do you say that? For any kind of director, just go on your website. I want to hear this music in films, not this boring crap that we hear all the time in Hollywood productions right now. I mean, what has happened? There was this great art form of people being able to write music that could even stand on its own without and not that your music is per se film music on your website, but you know what I mean.
I think the art of film composing was never looked at with the same level of overall respect as composers for the concert stage, or even as songwriters, for a long time. I think that kind of music was taken for granted because the job of film writing is to support the movie, support the motion picture, support the what you're seeing. So the composers are not necessarily always writing at the top of what they may have in terms of their vocabulary. Their mastery is in having such a broad spectrum that they can find just the right thing for that particular scene or whatever, you know, they're writing for, a theme or what have you. Just the right thing. That means you have to eliminate a lot of other stuff. Well, that's the mastery in being able to find the right thing. And sometimes people don't realize that is, in terms of film composing, that's the art in it. I mean, come on, Pablo, if somebody had walked up to you and said, I got this multi-million-dollar picture called Jaws, and the composer comes to you and says, I got just the thing. Don't. How many people would have said, I love it?
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
Now, Spielberg happens to also be very trusting in his relationship with John Williams. But that's the kind of thing that film people are dealing with all the time. Yeah. And because it's music, everybody thinks they know how to do it. Yeah. So the communication in terms of what people want has been then be translated into what not only they want, but also what the musician, the composer, has to do. Many times they'll say, I need this scene to be just a tearjerker, it just needs to feel like, and you're looking at the scene and you're going, okay,
I'm not screen.
I'm not seeing that.
Yeah.
But the music can help to take you there. And that could be whether there's action or anything like that. So the choices that film composers have to make sometimes doesn't feel like composition because there's not a lot of notes in your face and not a lot of stuff out front and blah, 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 blah. But if you ask somebody, well, can you sing the, you know, such and such from Shostakovich, blah, blah, blah? No. But can you sing Star Wars? So, you see, it's just a different sort of awareness that allows for the music to happen. And then, of course, the way it's orchestrated and all of that also feeds the idea of what the film music is supposed to do. And some people hate it. You know, I found it fascinating because you also have to do it within certain time constraints. And the music needs to make sense without taking you out of what you're looking at.
Yeah.
You know, and then pow, the door opens and you got to hit it out of nowhere. But that all, like I was saying, is very specific. And the art form is to make it not feel like that.
What I've learned not so long ago is, and I wasn't aware of this at all, that film composers also get, there's even a name for it, kind of music that the director chose that they think of already as in terms of inspiration for, or just a placeholder for the music, you know?
Yeah, a lot of times they do.
If I would hear this, I would be like,
I know.
I would feel super boxed in and not inspired at all.
Sometimes it can box you in, and then sometimes it helps to eliminate a lot of, okay, I know you're going down this direction. Okay, fine, I'll do that. So it just kind of depends on the situation and the way you're looking at it. When it's really difficult is when somebody wants the sound of an epic movie with no budget. They want an orchestra, but they can afford a trio.
Right.
So then it's like the decisions of how to offer the illusion of orchestration staying within a certain kind of budget and the methodology that is used. And now the technology allows for people to at least offer something close to what it is that people want, even though it may not be a lot of players because of the recording techniques, multiple tracks, things that we can do now. You know, that gets you closer. And it's a give and take because the other thing is that then when, you know, the most horrifying thing about film and television music was that back in the day, you didn't hear it until you were on a bandstand, ready to go. Here we go. Roll it. Let's go. So the composer had a reasonable idea about what it was going to sound like and what it was going to feel like, but nobody was 100%. That's when the composers had to be really on point also. As technology has allowed for people to hear stuff in advance or make a mock-up and da-da-da, now people say, well, they'll make you do it 1,000 times. Well, try it like this. Now try it like this. I try it like this. And it's like that part of it is not what it's supposed to be, but it has allowed for people to have to be really sure about what it is that they want. But sometimes that part is a drag. So I know what you're saying about, man, I would feel boxed in if you're going to tell me the style that you want and use this, and a lot of times they get locked into that.
When was this when you took orchestration lessons?
When I was in college, I was a music education major, and because of the specificity of that emphasis, I wasn't allowed to take orchestration until almost the second year out of college. And I'm like, that's crazy. So Quincy Jones recommended a person to me because the style of writing that I wanted to do, again, was commercial writing, you know. And he says, oh, go see this guy. And his name was Albert Harris. And I went to a few lessons with Albert, and he showed me all kinds of things. And I said, well, he says, well, you can find all the ranges of the instruments. I'm not going to deal with that. You can get that. I already knew a lot of that. He says, but I'm going to show you how the instruments work. And he actually drew pictures. He says, this is a tube. All the wind instruments, brass instruments function with this tube, Pythagorean theory. You put holes in the tube, you get a different set of overtones. They all work like that. Some of them, the tube is rounded around like in a French horn, or rounded around real big like in a tuba, or rounded around this way and like a trumpet. He explained stuff like that. And I said, well, how do I learn to write for that? He said, go write for it. Go write.
Just do it.
Just do it. You know, he said, learn what the instruments sound like.
Yeah.
Learn what they feel like. And then write. He says, this is orchestration. This is moving pieces around the chessboard. I can't teach you. I'm not here to teach you what to write. I'm here to help you execute what it is you want to write in the best possible way. And by that, we need to talk about the characteristics of the instruments. We need to talk about how they work. We need to talk about combinations of instruments. We need to talk about how you have to memorize those kinds of things so that you have them on command, just like you do with a language. You know, what's that word? I could say red, but I could say crimson. I could say yellow, but I really mean gold.
Yeah.
So I could teach you those kinds of things, but it has to be from you, what you want. So the thing you need to do is go write. And then we'll talk about it. And that's what I did. And I used my albums as that.
Okay.
So the string opening on Haven't You Heard? That was an orchestration lesson.
What did he say to that?
He said, oh, that was cool. That was very good.
It is very good.
Oh, that was very good. That's good thinking. That's creative. But it was that kind of, I guess I could call it motivation and the offering of a certain kind of informed fearlessness. Okay? Informed. You know, human beings learn things. I found this out later. 3 ways. First thing you do, you imitate. Then you sort of assimilate that which you have imitated. And then if you're lucky, after that long assimilation of a lot of information, you might innovate.
Yeah.
But it's a process. I mean, we learn to do everything like that. You learn to walk like that. You watched other people walk. Suddenly you pulled yourself up one day and started doing that. And then you assimilate. You know, oh, if I walk faster, I'm running. Oh, if I put both feet off the ground, I'm jumping. This walking thing has led to a lot of stuff here.
Yeah.
Right? And as you continue to do that, you'd be walking maybe down the street and somebody say, oh, there goes Pablo.
Yeah, yeah.
And somebody said, well, how do you know? I said, oh, I can tell the way he's walking.
Mm-hmm.
There's your innovation without
Mhm.
even trying.
Yeah.
So if I apply that idea to the music, I would say that that's the way Albert Harris and many of the teachers that I felt were the most impactful for me. It was concepts of things that you could put to use right away, review it, come back and do it again. Come back and do it again. And every time you do it, you discover something else and you do it better. And it was being given the encouragement that you should just go for it and keep going back to review it and go for it again and go for it again.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Is he on your mind right now when you're writing?
Sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes.
What's in your ear then?
Especially when I get to woodwinds.
Mm-hmm.
Because unlike strings and brass, most of the brass, that woodwinds are not one homogeneous sound. Bassoon sounds really different than the flute. Clarinet sounds really different than oboe. Saxophone sounds really different than clarinet. They have very distinct sounds and personalities, and so to find ways to use them and to mix them is always interesting and a little bit of a challenge because the personalities are so distinct in terms of their quality. But I think about that because he told me, he said, now woodwinds, that might be the toughest. Mm-hmm. I had a head start though because I did play flute in middle school and high school, so at least I knew the sound very well of flute, flute and piccolo.
Nice. One of my favorite albums is this one, Joy Ryder by Wayne Shorter. And the album itself doesn't really tell us much about the process. I love this album to death. I've listened to this so many times.
Amazing.
And I haven't found a lot of info in all the books of Wayne, and I really would like to know as much as I can about the process of how was it to rehearse with him. How was it when you first got the music? And then there's this basic quartet, and then there's a lot of other cool piano players who come in.
Okay.
So please tell me, where do we start? So what's the first time you've seen this music? You've seen the actual pages?
Let me think back now. I knew he was writing because I had been on a tour with him.
Also, that was after the tour.
Santana and Santana and Wayne did a tour together, and I played on that. So I knew he was thinking about it. I don't think I think I got the music like that day. Wayne wrote all of his stuff out, his hand. So that's the first thing you see. I'm a fan too, so I'm having to be cool. Like, man, he just wrote,
Mm-hmm.
But then he had ideas, but he wanted you to be able to express those ideas in your way, and then he would shape them sometimes. But he had definite ideas about what he wanted, and that's what he would write down. I remember that I think I only played one session where it was a live session. I believe Terry Lynn Carrington, I want to say Nathan East. You may have to check.
Yeah, Nathan East.
Myself and Nathan and Terry Lynn played a live session together, but a lot of the other stuff that I did was in overdub.
Right, okay.
Okay, I remember that. I also remember that there were some songs or some pieces that, he would know in advance, I'm also going to have so-and-so playing on this.
Mm-hmm.
He would expect you to have a sense or a sensibility about that person's sound, so that you would operate with that information, because we weren't always all there at the same time. I remember that. But Wayne, I adored him. First of all, as a player and as a composer, I thought he was brilliant. And because I'm glad that I was able to spend time around him and with him.
Yeah.
Because that informed so much about the approach for me with Joy Ryder. I think some of the other players had maybe had that kind of time with him in other circumstances. But having been on the road with him and played with him like every night, I learned a lot about him.
How long was that tour?
And it made it easy. That tour was almost 5 months. You know, we did a chunk, and then we went out and did a little more.
Yeah. I've seen a lot of videos from that and recordings. Beautiful.
Woo! It was a game changer for me.
Yeah.
I was with two people who I also adore in the rhythm section, Alfonso Johnson on bass, and my dear friend Ndugu Chancellor.
Yeah.
And
it's nice to be able to have such a great experience with a friend, right?
Yes.
Like because you've been playing with him for such a long time, and then to have that experience with somebody you know so well. Must have been helpful also.
It was. Oh no, it offered a lot. And it offered a lot that was non-musical too. Just in terms of your comportment, stamina, how to get from day to day, the process from day to day. And at that level, you know, Carlos Santana is a huge name. And so everything that is thought through in terms of how you move and what you do and all of those kinds of things are very, very thought through. They're not haphazard at all. And learning that part, I think, has informed, you know, the way I've handled, you know, my bands and things that I've done. Those little details.
We'll get back to Joy Ryder. Let's spend some time on the tour right now.
Okay.
There's a couple of questions that I had about that tour because you're playing some of Wayne's pieces, but you're also playing some of your pieces. So how was it for you to bring your songs into this situation and then see Wayne take a look at your songs, at your sheet music or whatever you brought, and tell me about that experience, how he dealt with that and how you dealt with him and the group?
Yeah. Well, when I got the gig, one of the things that Carlos said, "Hey, bring something."
Nice.
I said, "Oh, okay." And, you know, thinking in terms of the players and, okay, well, I'll bring a couple of things. So I wrote a song called Fireball 2000.
Yeah.
And then one called Shh.
Yeah.
Well, first of all, you got to know that just the idea that it was okay for me to bring something. Remember, Carlos had many members of his band, and I was there sort of as the bridge between what he was going to do and whatever Wayne was going to do. So we got into rehearsal, and I talked to Ndugu quite a bit because he was working with Carlos and he knew Wayne. And, of course, Alfonso knew Wayne, you know, from Weather Report. And I said, well, what do I do? And they said, just put the music and just go. It's going to be cool. And we did, and they played it, and then we were able to talk about ideas in order to make it more dramatic and all of this. It was amazing for me to hear these guys interpreting this music. And every single night that we played the music, Wayne would just create this, especially on Shh, he would create just this idea of the use of space as part of the music.
Well, that's in your song too.
Yes, the suggestion is definitely there.
Yeah.
But the way and the
he interacted.
The way he absorbed that, and the idea of being able to also offer those abstract extractions of how to use the space. I learned a lot every time I would play with him. And then I could always tell, you know, Wayne was a big movie buff. And I could always tell what he watched the night before because he would invariably play that theme in somewhere.
Yeah.
And
there's
there's
a lot of Star Wars.
He was into Star Wars, and so that one of the clips that I know that that Mantra released. Yeah, he's called Star Wars. Really great.
They also say it in the book about Wayne. Michelle Mercer writes about Wayne would play Star Wars in a moment of either of triumph with that band, or when you would walk through a valley or you needed to fight, you know, and he would play this in order to build up the strength for the band.
Yeah, I think that situation and being around him that much gave me a lot of freedom to just relax into whatever he wanted on Joy Ryder, and the expression and being able to read that not only in his music but in the way that he approached stuff gave me ideas for sounds, gave me ideas for the approach of the keyboards.
Mm-hmm. How was the process in the Santana Shorter group when Wayne brought in his songs? Did he tell you something when he gave you the sheet?
No, I just looked at it and I saw Elegant People. I was like, oh wow.
Yeah.
I mean, I love that piece. So to be able to play that, and with Alfonso,
Sanctuary.
that meant a lot. That meant like Sanctuary.
Mm-hmm.
Those were things that that informed some of my musical sensibilities and knowledge about that tradition. About and how it had evolved. And by the time we got to fusion, all of these different musical dialects that were part of that movement. And, it's like composing in real time. Oh, it was amazing.
Mm-hmm. Also, that piece that you played of Wayne's, which I have never heard in another setting, which is Ballroom in the Sky.
Oh, wow. I don't remember that one, but okay. It's on that album?
It's on that Santana Shorter tour.
Oh, on the tour.
Yeah. So it starts rubato,
Oh,
and then it
yes.
goes into this.
He didn't have a name.
Oh, yeah, I see. Okay.
Okay, what is it called? Ballroom in the Sky?
In the Ballroom in the Sky, yeah.
Okay. I think when we played it, it didn't have a name.
I see, yeah.
I remember it because it started kind of rubato,
Yeah.
and then it went into this, like sort of a Latin groove or something.
Exactly, yeah. And it's kind of a turnaround. It's kind
Yes,
of a turnaround,
yes.
which he also sometimes used as a turnaround for an additional turnaround for Footprints in the 80s.
Yes. Oh, okay. It has a name now. Okay, good.
Really beautiful, really beautiful.
It is, yeah.
So back to Joy Ryder. Just a very basic question. So Wayne calls you for a record date. Is he telling you bring the DX7 and bring what or do you bring what you want, or do you play what's in the studio, or what, for this album? What happened?
I think I asked him, "What do you need?" And he said, "Just bring your stuff."
Your stuff.
Now he had already he had seen my stuff because we had
Yeah,
been on the
right.
road, so I knew. Okay, and it was there, and there were some things that he wanted piano on, and then some things he wanted my stuff.
Yeah.
And like I said, when we got to that part, I was in an overdub situation primarily. So there were certain things that had been laid down, and he was looking for a particular kind of quality of sound. So it was about blending these synthesizer sounds to get the tonality and the texture that he was looking for.
So were you ever together in the studio with Jerry Allen or Herbie for those sessions, or never?
No.
You never
No,
saw
I
them?
wasn't. I didn't see them.
That's
No.
interesting. Okay.
No, I wasn't there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
How was it when you first heard the album?
I was surprised at how cohesive it was, because when you're involved in a project and you're doing things, sometimes they are out of context.
Yeah.
So you can't necessarily, so you bring your best to whatever it is you have to do and that but you don't always know all of the other things that are going to be in that setting when somebody is listening back. So it was kind of cool. And then, of course, to be documented on a project with Jerry Allen and documented on a project with Herbie and everybody else who was on there that's always special.
Yeah. But there was another time when you actually played with Herbie, right? The vocoder duet on, what's the name of the song?
Yeah, right.
But on Light Me Up.
Yeah.
So you get called for Herbie's album. How did that feel?
Well, I was like, so why is somebody calling me for... But they said, oh, no, we want you to do a vocoder thing. I said, okay. Sometimes you just go and it'll clear up when you get there. So then they wanted to know, are you comfortable, playing and doing this? Oh, okay. So that's how that came out.
Mm-hmm. Did he give you any notes or anything that he wanted, or just...
the song was written by Templeton.
Rod Temperton?
Rod Temperton.
Yeah.
And he was pretty much directing traffic in terms of here's what's going to happen. Herbie sings this. It's already on there. You're going to harmonize. You're going to come in here, blah, blah, blah. So he had that all worked out. So I just was kind of fitting in the holes. I remember that I was playing, to address the vocoder, you play what you're playing it and mouthing the words very articulately in order to get it out to make it sound like singing.
Yeah.
And I was playing Herbie's Rhodes.
Oh, nice.
That was cool.
In a couple of interviews of yours, you told stories about Herbie coming with his bands through your town, and you would get to talk to the band and hang out with them a little bit. Mm-hmm. And so my question is, what kind of questions, if you got to talk to Herbie, what kind of questions did you ask him?
Well, ironically, in all of those times, as much as I would go to hear, that band was the Mwandishi band particularly.
Oh, you said
I was in high school. Mm-hmm. And we did a lot of field trips, but in my high school, going to hear jazz was part of what we did as well as music majors. So we would go, and I got closer to everybody in the band than I did Herbie in terms of being able to ask any kinds of questions. Herbie and I have never sat down at the piano together. Most of the information that I gathered from him was just through listening to him and watching, and then hearing him talk about his own experiences. And that kind of informed things about the music. I was attracted to his harmonic concept because I really like harmony. And I was also attracted, what I noticed was his touch.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And how different it was depending on what he was going to play, and all of this. So there were a lot of things that I validated, and then a lot of things that I learned by listening and watching. I was able to become pretty close with Benny Maupin and Buster Williams, and Eddie Henderson. And we probably had more conversations about music and life and all of that than I've had in terms of the specificity of Herbie. But Herbie's music, and as a person, when I have been around him, it spoke for itself. I didn't have a lot of questions that weren't answered if I would just pay attention.
Yeah, right.
Been a big influence. Not just his own music and piano playing, but just in the absorption and the realization that there are all of these different, again, dialects of music that allow for you to be able to take in information for your own particular expression. And again, that fearlessness of just go do it, but be good at it. Get good, but go do it,
Mm-hmm. How was it to play Water Torture and Quasar with Benny Maupin and basically the rest of the band also?
Right. Well, I have to say that was sort of an out of body experience, because I obviously enjoyed the recording, those people, and I knew that I was participating in something where somebody had come in and had big shoes, and here I had to come in and try to find my way, But that's another thing that happens when people respond to your sincerity, I think, that they become that they're welcoming and allow you to be you, even if you're in a space where you're playing for someone else or taking someone else's place. They want you to be you. So it was cool.
It sounded beautiful.
Thanks.
Also, very, very different approach for Water Torture than what we knew from the albums. I think is it on Crossings or on?
Yeah, I think is Water Torture on Crossings. I can't remember.
Yeah, one of those.
One of those.
But it's very different.
Yeah, it's different. Well, they wanted it that way.
Right.
They were trying to do version 2.0,
Yeah.
allow it to evolve. And one of the things, Pablo, and that's part of the tradition of the music as well,
Mm-hmm.
is that you learn to play a particular piece and you keep revisiting it.
Yeah.
Because each time you revisit it, the possibility is for it to come into something else.
Yeah.
And you figured in the 60s, 70s, those jazz groups, they played the same song for 30 years.
Mm.
Same set or same group of, but every time they visited it, it was an opportunity to be able to, what can I do now?
Mm-hmm.
That's why people don't get it, but music, man, that for your emotional soul and physically, it's a full contact sport.
Yeah.
You're in it. You're in it.
Yeah. Absolutely. When you saw the Mwandishi band, what is your go-to recollection when you think of it now? What comes to mind?
I think what comes to mind was like a certain pride in seeing African American excellence, and in seeing a certain kind of fraternity that they had that became part of the voice of the music. Now, what I mean by that, yes, there were these great compositions, masterful performances of the music, but in addition to that, there was a palpable layer of trust and love in being able to go in this direction, which at the time was very unusual. And I think led to offering those of us who were teenagers at the time, offering us permission to be as creative and knowledgeable, because that was what led to a certain kind of innovation.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Beautiful. Thanks for sharing that.
Oh, sure.
Here's another song that I transcribed from you. Can you see this?
Yeah, my gosh. You could have called me, I'd send it to you.
Actually, if you would share it with me, I'd love to see how you write it down. When did you write that piece? Is it an old piece that you brought to the session, or is it what did you write for the session?
It was an older piece that I brought to the session because I felt like that ensemble with Wallace was going to be, it could be really special. It was. I think I wrote it originally for a group called Canela. Canela was a group that I was in just for a short time. We used to play a lot together. It was Abraham Laboriel played bass. Justo Almario played saxophone. And Alex Acuna played drums. And myself. And it was originally put together for them. And I don't know if we ever really got to it. I wrote other things, for the band too, and we all contributed stuff. And I don't know if we really played it a lot, but we played it a little bit. But I just had it kind of sitting. And when I got the call for this particular record, Wallace said, bring something.
Nice.
I said, oh, okay. I had played it one other time with Lenny White and Stanley Clark in a trio context.
Nice.
So I thought this would be really cool, and I could definitely hear that Wallace would enjoy it. So I took that. Mm-hmm.
Beautiful. It sounded really, really nice, and also very fresh, and energetic, and also you guys were going for it. Yeah. Beautiful. I'm very much looking forward to seeing your chart.
Okay, I'll send it to you.
Also, that you play Claire de Lune on that album it's a nice. I really like that.
I had no idea that Wallace was going to do that. He said, I have this idea. Oh, what? Mm-hmm. We're going to play Claire de Lune. I'm like, oh, wait, really? So But the idea and the way he wanted to shape it was, I thought, very interesting.
Yeah,
So,
what did he say to you?
Not much.
Okay.
He said
He just wrote it down in a sheet
yeah,
or something?
he had the sheet music of the the piano arrangement of it, and then with the chord changes.
Nice, yeah.
And he said, so I want to imply these voicings, but I also want you to go away from it and come back to it and go. So it's one of my favorite pieces too. So it was one of those things where it's like, oh wow, okay.
I love that. I love that little detail. That's something that I do as well when I study classical music, because I'm never gonna perform it in a way where I would feel satisfied. Because I do music in a different way, improvisatory way. But that's how I study it. I also write down the chord symbols into the original, score. Mm-hmm. And then after a while, you start playing the changes in a way.
Exactly.
Yeah. Did you do that as well with classical pieces?
Oh, all the time. That's how that was probably ultimately one of the better ways for me to memorize.
Right.
Because you're playing classical music, everybody they want to memorize.
Mm-hmm.
When I was playing Bach,
mm-hmm.
that was the only way for me to feel confident that if I got lost, I could get back.
Yeah.
Usually, you're playing it note for note, and it has to be a certain kind of thing. But one of the
Mm-hmm.
ways one of my teachers said, well, if you kind of know harmonically where it's going and something happens, you can find your way back. And she was right.
Yeah.
But even when I'm working on these pieces for orchestra, as I'm sketching and having ideas and stuff like that, I don't get too bogged down in the specificity of what the flute is gonna play. I write the changes.
Nice.
And have the overall movement of what's gonna happen, and then assign the movement to the different voices.
Yeah.
It works out a little better for me that way. I don't get so.
But you never give the changes to the flute.
Oh no.
I wonder what would happen if you just write C minor on top of their part. Just see what happens.
That your point is so well taken from the standpoint of how, especially now, 21st century, the idea of the various ways in which we have to communicate musically. I think now, like in schools and stuff, everybody needs to understand, like, chord changes. And, they do, and they still write them with Roman numerals and stuff. Okay, nobody's doing that anymore. Anybody that you talk to, when you say C minor 7, everybody needs to know. Just distill it now so that everybody can share and find the intersections in the language, because they're all talking about the same thing. I had teachers that were like brilliant at that, and I think I'm really, really fortunate in that way, because it allowed for me to not have to categorize the music in terms of this does this, but this does that. No, it's what's necessary to get the particular point across. And I had a teacher that once, she said, "Okay, you didn't prepare for your lesson today." I said, "No, piano teacher. No, I didn't." "Well, what did you do?" "I learned this Marvin Gaye song off the radio." So she said, "Okay, we'll play that." So I'm playing the song, and then she says, "Okay, wait. That's a figured bass line. Look at this right here in this Bach piece. There's the same concept right there." And I'm like, oh, wow.
Mm-hmm.
And she was really good at being able to offer this idea that is all music. It's just a matter of this is this and this is that. So how you do things, how you communicate things, I think that's important. And I don't know that we spend as much time as we might with students being able to help them understand that the language of it is to give you the ability to have conversations with anybody within the music world.
Mm-hmm.
And to offer the ideas that you may have that they don't know in a way that they can participate, and vice versa. That's how you get to other things. And I guess it's kind of like that in real life. The more you have the ability to communicate with people at a certain level, the more comfortable they are communicating with you at that certain level. And that's how things start happening. Ideas.
That's true. When you get into a situation like, let's say, Joy Ryder, where the music is very involved, what you're reading is very complex. You have to be great at reading. I'm convinced that you're a great reader.
I fooled you too,
Uh,
I'm okay. I'm pretty good, but I have to work at it. Oh man.
yes, but okay, even better. Like, tell me what your process is when you get to the studio and you see that music like that written down. I talked to John Patitucci at in one of these interviews, and he said the first thing that I'm doing is I'm already grouping the notes together. So I'm wondering what your take is on that.
Yeah,
What happens?
no, he's similarly. John is amazing too. I love him. Okay, so I get the music and I do a similar kind of thing. I kind of scan it all first, and whatever seems like is going to be the hardest element in it for me. Okay, is it this rhythm right here? Is it this interval right here? What chord is that? What?
Mm-hmm.
I go through it and kind of figure out the stuff that I know I'm going to miss if I don't take a minute before we're really doing it to isolate that thing and figure that part out. And once I've done that, then I go back and if there's a moment to kind of work that part out, how I got into that part and how I get out of it, that's what I try to do, because those parts are still going to be difficult when we play it from top to bottom.
Yeah.
They're not going to I don't want them to catch me by surprise. I want to try to get it the first time, and sometimes it won't be the first time, but I won't get lost.
Yeah.
And I won't be in a situation where it just falls completely apart.
Mm-hmm.
What I typically do, especially with my students, is just write a line through the beats. I don't do it on every measure, but only on the measures where I know there might be a difficult rhythmic thing where
like
I can't
polyrhythm or something.
I can't see it, so I want to see downbeats so that I know where I am. So I do the similar type of thing. I go through, I scan it first just to see what's there, and when as soon as I see something that I'm gonna miss, that circle that, I'm gonna miss that.
Mm-hmm.
I probably won't. This is weird over here, and
Yeah.
that's while everybody's talking and whatever they're doing, I'm trying to figure out those places
Yeah.
so that I don't, I can avoid the big stumble
Yeah.
when we get there.
That's
But
great advice.
reading is something that it's a skill that requires practice,
Mm-hmm.
and it's one of those things that is one of the first things to sort of get away from you, because when you're in a band or when you're in a group or something, you play and you've been playing the tunes and you know the tunes well, and you're not looking at the music anymore, you're not reading it all, and you're playing and improvising and working and blah 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 blah, and you're not really spending a lot of time reading. So it does take, as part of a practice routine, to just get some music and put the metronome on and read. And it is boring, and you got to be prepared to not sound very good. But it's the exercise of doing that makes things better. And I'm finding that when I'm writing music, there is a correlation between that which you write and then the ability to recognize it on a page when you see it again. So,
Yeah, right. The reading
one
gets
activity
better
can help another.
When you write more, the reading gets better.
Mm-hmm.
That's true.
So that's a good thing, that one activity has the capacity to inform the other.
Yes, that's such a relief and a good thought. I always love that too. Like when I'm transcribing something, I'm working on several things at the same time. When I'm writing, or also when I'm only playing, I'm working on a lot of. When I'm listening, I'm working on a lot of things.
That's right. A lot of people get really frustrated. They go, well, I'm doing this and I should be doing that. It's like, well, don't think of it that way. Think of it as one big thing, and everything contributes to the other stuff. So
Yeah.
mhm.
Going back to the shorter Santana tour, on your website I've seen a picture of you with, I think, members of that group and Miles Davis. And I'm sure you played some of the same festivals, but I've never seen any footage of you playing with Miles, although I think it would have been a great fit, and he should have asked you. So
Well, you
I'm
know,
wondering, was there interactions between you and Miles, and what was it like? And maybe you can tell me about your relationship.
yeah. Well, of course, major fan of his music. His music really informed, everything that I had heard. My parents used to listen to the music, so from a long time I could see and appreciate the evolution of the different groups. But I don't know, I was kind of afraid of Miles. I think I was afraid because I didn't want to hear that I didn't want him to tell me I couldn't play.
Yeah.
Now, that's the story is, Miles would just tell it like it is. And I didn't necessarily want to know if like it is was not good. So I just kind of avoided. I loved his music, listened to him. Ndugu played with him for years.
Yep.
And as friend, what is he like? And
Yeah.
I always wanted to know. We had lots of mutual acquaintances, knew a lot of the people that were in his various bands.
Yeah.
But could not bring myself to talk to the man at all. So this time I'm on this tour with Carlos and Wayne. And we are playing on the same show. I said it's now or never.
Yeah.
But I had Wayne on one side
Yeah.
and Alfonso on the other side. I figure I'm safe. He's not going to tell me that I don't play good in front of them. And if they do, they can hold me up. If he does, they can hold me up.
Mm-hmm.
I said, Miles, I'd love to have a picture. And he said, is it for you? I said, yes. And he put his arm around me and we took the picture.
Mm-hmm.
And he was so gracious. He says, can I introduce you to my nephew? And blah, blah, blah.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, wow. How much time did I waste being afraid to just tell him, regardless of what he was going to say to me?
Yeah.
Just tell him about the power and the enjoyment of his music and to me, and leave it at that. And if he said I suck, then okay. But I didn't even get a chance to tell him that. So it was a very important lesson that sometimes your perception of what somebody's going to say or do shouldn't be part of the equation. If you have something you want to say to them, just say it.
Yeah. And also what insecurity does to what we do with insecurity to ourselves is like you took the insecurity that you had, which is normal, everybody has that, and you voiced it with one of the most powerful voices in your head. Miles, that's so interesting what we do in our heads, right?
Yeah, so much of what we, especially as artists, we tend to be very sensitive to that. But we can get in our own way. So it's the same thing that allows you to be open enough to express your feelings through your playing or through your writing. That same sensibility leaves you vulnerable to getting in your head, because there's two voices going on at the same time. One that is, this is amazing, and the other one is like, are you out of your mind? And they're happening the same, yes, no, no, and they're equally as loud. So part of our chore and and part of what we have to develop in our toolbox is the ability to turn one voice down, turn the one down that's in the way of what it is that you want to offer.
Yeah. But right now when you said it and had that image, I was thinking, do we kind of need the critical voice also to a certain extent in our head? Because sometimes I know I've been to shows where I've seen an artist be, this is amazing, and I could somehow hear that, but not in the good way.
Yeah. No, I think you need both, and that's what it is. It's a matter of
You're balancing it.
balancing.
Yeah.
And then those shows where somebody goes, "This is amazing," you just have to wonder if they haven't turned off all of the other elements,
Yeah.
And one of the other things to consider is that an artist may feel like, yeah, this is amazing, and I stand by that and I stick to it, and the receiver of that information may be going, I don't get it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't get it. That's part of it too, in terms of your response to the fact that maybe what it is that you're offering might be great, but is not clear.
Mm-hmm.
And the worst of all is if the audience or the receiver of the information, if they don't care, if it doesn't make any difference to them.
Yeah.
So, how was the show? That's
Whatever.
the worst.
Yeah.
I'd rather somebody said hated it,
Yeah.
and here's why. Boom, 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 boom. But if there's like no investment,
Yeah.
then whatever we were doing as an artist, something is not getting through.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. What pieces did Wayne give you? Pieces of advice during that tour that you still think back to right now?
Well, Wayne wasn't the kind of person necessarily that would give you advice in specifics in that way.
In the traditional sense.
Not in the traditional sense.
Yeah.
I think by example
Mm-hmm.
was the way that you could receive certain things, and when you would hear him make certain kinds of statements, to be able to keep reviewing in your mind why he would say that and in that way.
Do you remember one of them?
Yeah, I remember the first time I was around him, I went to a session of Weather Report.
A recording session?
A recording session.
Which one?
I don't even remember which album it was, but Alfonso was in the band at that time.
Oh.
And
wow.
Ndugu, okay, so it had to be that album, because Ndugu recorded one album with them.
Is it Tale Spinnin?
I think it's Tale Spinnin.
Oh, nice. You were at that session.
I went to one of the sessions.
Wow.
Invited by Ndugu. And they were recording, and they would go in, at least at that time, and the tape would just be running. And they had no game plan. It's just the tape is running and we play. And one of their processes was to do that, to then take away whatever happened during that day, and then it was Joe who would decide this. Now sometimes they would have specific pieces, but in this date they didn't. So the tape was just running. And they came back to listen to a playback after about 10 minutes. And Joe says, "Well, Wayne, what do you think?" And Wayne says, "It needs to be more gold."
Mm.
And Joe says, okay. And I'm looking at Alfonso, who I know well, and Ndugu, and I'm wondering, what does that mean? What are you going to do different? But every time he would talk, he would speak in ways that would make you have to go back and think that through.
Yeah.
And then put into practice whatever it was the interpretation of that was for you, and you would get clues from him. He just didn't leave you with stuff and okay, figure that out. You could just watch him, and then you could understand. Okay, I see. He wants more substance. He wants it to be a little richer in what we come up with. Let's keep going, and you learn to appreciate that, to tell you what to do without telling you what to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice. What happened next in the session then?
They went in for another 10 or 15 minutes of just playing and tapes running. See, it all sounded great to me.
Yeah.
So I'm listening to it, and I'm really young, and I'm overwhelmed with the fact that I'm in the same space with these people.
Yeah.
And watching this process. But I think the biggest takeaway was them watching their reaction to what they were doing, and his words, and then that they went back and did something.
Yeah.
Nobody said, well, what exactly do you mean?
Yeah.
They were like, oh, okay, let's go back.
Yeah.
And
Oh, great. That's cool. I'm gonna go back listen to that album now, thinking about you that you were in there.
it was I had an opportunity to spend some time with Joe.
Oh,
And
at the instrument also?
we were he used to live in the same general area where I live. And I don't know why I was over there. I can't remember why I was at his house that day. Had a little studio with his stuff set up, and he was listening to playbacks of different things and deciding, I'm going to use this and I'm going to do this, and then it's going to go here and go back to that. And that's where I understood, oh, I see. He's listening to all of this thing and doing the editing in terms of the parts of it that are going to be the most usable, and then help to make things cohesive. And I'll bet there are a lot of songs that we know very well now that probably used that method, where they came up with something amazing, and it was Joe that had the ability to focus it into a piece. And then with the musicianship of everybody else, of course, stitch things together in such a way that it did make musical sense. And that was those times. They were all capable also of bringing in a thought out, finished, completed piece to be interpreted. But there was that other way of composition that was also present, which was kind of cool, and taught me that, okay, it can come like that too.
Did Alfonso Johnson ever tell you about what happened when he brought in the song? What's that song? Do-do-dee, 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 do-do-dee.
Oh, right, no. He never, I would ask him a lot. I said, well, what was that like? He says, well, No, I don't. you know them. But Alfonso, we were in a group together much later called The Meeting. And I loved, working with him because he was always very clear about his purpose and his role in whatever music we were playing. And I'm sure that a lot of that was a part of the way he approached, his why that was so attractive in his work with Weather Report, because he figures out what does this need, and then he'll stay there and do that.
That's a great skill set.
It is.
Yeah. Can you tell me about that Sonny Rollins album, The Way I Feel? I was just listening before we talked. I was listening to Shout It Out, the first recording of that song, right before you did your own album and your own version of that. And then I had listened to that album before, but today somehow, as if I've always missed it, I was completely struck by Love Reborn, that George Duke and Flora Purim song, and your solo on that. So I'm interested in your memories of that recording session.
Wow, I don't remember anything about it. But I will tell you that I'm gonna have to go back and listen to that too. I haven't heard it in a while. Working with George. See, that's another interesting thing. I don't know if this has been your experience or not, but the piano players, they don't really have like a close thing. When you talk to drummers, that is the most incredible fraternity ever to me. Drummers worldwide.
Yeah.
There's a thing about that they all support each other and have love for one another, who just for trying to be that.
Yeah.
And there's maybe other instruments where
with
people
bass,
have that.
there's a different thing. They never see each other, but when they see each other, they really like seeing each other.
It's a thing. But keyboards, we don't have that same. It's not the same energy. We respect one another immensely, and we see each other, but we don't have that let's hang out fraternity moment. We don't have that.
I would love to have that more.
Me too. Maybe we can change that.
Yeah. We're doing it now.
We're doing it now, right? So I think that having experienced some of that with George gave me that, wow, so when he would call me to play when he wasn't going to play and he was going to produce or something like that, that was a big deal.
Mm-hmm.
That was a big deal. And because he had worked with Flora and Airto so much, that whenever he would call me, I was like, oh, very cool. So I had a lot of love for him for a lot of reasons, his playing and just as a person. But that was always special when he would give me a call.
Yeah. Your solo on that is absolutely incredible.
Wow. I
Yeah.
don't even remember. I'll have to check it out.
It's a beautiful, a little bit obviously Brazilian sounding ballad, and then it goes into this double feel.
Wow.
And you're burning.
Okay. Well, thank you.
Maybe we can be more specific about the movement that you're working on at the moment.
Okay. Well, a whole piece. I'll tell you about this piece.
Yeah, please.
Because it's an interesting concept. When I was asked by Juilliard and Interlochen to write something, I said, well, is there something specific that you have in mind that you'd like the piece to be about? No, write whatever you want, which is the best and the worst thing that you could tell.
Mm-hmm.
Leaves though. Earlier last year, an artist she's a sculptor. Her name is Lauren Halsey. And Lauren called and said, I want to use your face as part of this piece that I'm working on. It's an installation, 6 pillars, and I want you to use your face on one. So I said, oh, okay. No one had ever asked me anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
I said, okay. Now that's not a world that I am aware of, in terms of knowing who's who and blah, blah, blah. But after she said that, a little time passed and I looked her up. Oh, she's had installations at the Met and all kinds of major places in the United States and in parts of the world. And this particular piece was going to be installed in Venice, Italy. So I'm feeling like, oh man, this is awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Time went on. I didn't think about it anymore. Then I saw the piece was completed, and some friends of mine were in Italy and went and saw it and took pictures of the thing. And I moved like to tears. I mean, it's a very majestic, very awesome piece. And she calls it Keepers of the Crown. And she spells crown with a K. Mm. So I'm so moved by this piece, and I call her and I talk to her and I say, I've seen it, so on and so forth. And she says, yeah, you represent one of these pillars in my life because one of the first musical concerts I went to was yours. My mom took me.
Wow.
So this is like art begets art, begets art, begets art. This is what that circle feels like. She's from my hometown, grew up where I grew up. She's 37, so we're generations apart. But I said, I'm going to write this piece about that. So I asked her, can I call my piece Keepers of the Crown too? She said, oh, by all means. So when I talk to those kids and this piece is offered to them and I'm able to explain that story to them, the lessons are going to be massive. Not only from the standpoint of the piece and my reaction to her reaction, like that, but also that all the music that they play, whether it's Beethoven or Aaron Copland, comes from somebody's experience that is real. So to investigate the music beyond the notes will be a massive lesson because I'll be right there to tell them about this story. Isn't that cool?
That's very cool.
So I'm excited about that. So the piece, like I said, it's in 3 movements. It has to do with the majesty that was the first impression. Then it breaks down into the idea of any form of creative energy, artistic creative energy, how it gets broken down into smaller bites in order to create this environment and the providence of it. So I'm calling it artful providence. And then the third movement, which I'm working on now, is just the end result of just the process that results in this triumph of having done something big, something that means something to you, and that the establishment of that purpose and passion connecting. That's what the third movement will be about. I'm in it now. I've started. I'm like about almost halfway, almost not quite. You know, I have some concerts coming up. I'm going to Japan and
Nice.
play a few dates. And like I said, I just finished playing in San Francisco and a concert in LA. So, you know, it comes in bits and pieces, you know, which is actually good because the part where I'm about to kind of stop so I can prepare for next week is a good place to be, because it's like, okay, I know where I need to go, but I'll wait. I'll wait for it to come.
It will be still there when you come back. Yeah. That's a good place, because sometimes we lose stuff when we stop at the wrong moment, when we are distracted in the wrong moment.
Well, I think, again, one of the advantages, it doesn't always save the day, but one of the advantages that we have is that if you have a certain idea, you can get your phone out and blah, 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 you know, to just hopefully remind yourself. And then in my case, in addition to that tool, if I hear something, I can write it down, and it will be it may not be the exact idea that will ultimately be in it, but it will prompt that next feeling. So that works for me sometimes.
And it still has that spark that came from the initial idea. Yeah, that's good.
So I'll let you know. I think Juilliard is going to premiere it in November.
Oh,
and if they record it or anything, I'll let you know.
Oh, please do. So how do you prepare for an upcoming tour?
Oh, well, you know, figure out the show. And this particular tour, you know, we're playing a lot of the hits. And the idea is, when I was, you know, sometimes you do something in a jazz context and people go, I love that, but you didn't play my jam. I want to hear Forget Me Nots. Well, playing quartet, so I'm not, you know.
Okay.
Or sometimes, you know, I'll do a short set where I'll have all the hits, and somebody says, do you still play jazz? So in this particular situation, I'm able to do both.
Nice.
And the musicians that I have are very, you know, really versatile, totally into it. We enjoy ourselves. So our preparation for me, you know, put the show together in terms of what the songs are going to be that we're going to play. Try to make it such that it's going to be an enjoyable set for people to hear, and especially if I don't speak the language. I don't speak Japanese. I may know a half dozen words, so I won't be able to talk a lot and it mean as much. I'll be able to talk some, but I won't be able to talk a lot and it mean as much. So crafting the show so that the music allows for the experience that I would like the people to have and enjoy. And just my own personal preparation. Practice the songs.
Yeah.
Learn
How do you do it?
I just come to this room and I just if it's a song where I have to play and sing, make sure that the coordination of that is cool. Vocalize every day, and just practice every day, and you know, especially leading up to it, make sure that the things that I'm confident we're going to do, I feel good about it. You know, myself. We've been playing off and on now, this particular grouping of people for the last maybe 3 years. So, you know, most of the songs we have played before. Maybe I'll interject maybe one or two more that are popular in the area where I'm going.
How big is the repertoire?
Well, we're going to be playing, like, we have 15 pieces to choose from. If I have a 75-minute set, we can probably play 12 or 13. If it's a 70-minute set, then a few less, you know. But we've got enough repertoire that we can cover everything without getting too bored. Doing the same thing, can interject certain things, keep us on our toes.
Yeah.
You know, we have a lot
And
of fun.
do you? What's your view on doing a set list?
I always do a set list.
Mm-hmm.
Always, because you know the way people receive it is in the context of their experience of the whole show.
Yeah.
So I always put together a set list that that offers that beginning, middle, and end that they can feel good about the whole thing. You know?
And when do you do the set list?
I typically do it at our last rehearsal. I usually know by our last rehearsal what the set is, and when we rehearse the show, we'll rehearse it in that order to kind of see its flow. It doesn't mean it's not gonna change. It can change, but at least you have sort of an overall picture, an overall arc to what is gonna happen, and then you see that also it's not just informing you in terms of the music. It's based in terms of your stamina.
Mm-hmm.
You know, how I'm gonna get from this high energy to a ballad.
Yeah.
How you're gonna get, and then when you come out of it, what you're gonna do. There's that. There's also for your sound engineer. You know, front of house, they need to know what's coming.
Yeah.
And the flow and the arc of what you have also can contribute to a situation where you have a shot at a better mix.
Mm.
You know, that person is the delivery system, so you can be playing really great, but if people can't hear it, or if it's too this or too that, or not enough this or not enough that, so that allows them to plan a little bit. Yeah, it works out.
Mm-hmm.
But it's thought out.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things that I think sometimes people miss. That those part of that experience is what comes after this, after this, after this, after this. You know?
That's something that, of course, with streaming and playlists, we lose that because, and
Absolutely.
we also lose. I don't know. I have this theory that I'm not hearing as great set lists when I go to concerts as I used
Well,
to hear.
it's a practice and an art of putting it together.
Yeah, if you don't listen to albums anymore, just separate tracks, you don't have the feeling for a great sequence of things.
Well, albums and the recorded medium offers you a certain set of advantages and disadvantages.
Mm-hmm.
And streaming, I think, can highlight the disadvantages. So to try to do an album where people can listen to it and really hear it in the context of where you are for that album, what the concept of it is, instead of it just being tunes, sometimes that gets a little bit muddled by the fact that people can just pick out singles and do whatever they want. So you don't hear a lot of concept albums like that anymore.
Mm-hmm.
You don't hear an album where there's necessarily something I'm trying to say, and it carries all the way through. There might be a few, but in general, you don't always hear that.
Mm-hmm.
In a concert, however, they're captive.
Mm-hmm.
And if there's some aspect of your artistry that is easier understood in the order of the way you do your show, it's a little, that's part of what the presentation can be. And people, they're not sitting there going, okay, well, you did this, and then, no, they're just experiencing something.
Yeah.
And if the show was put together well, that's a part of the experience that they take away, the enjoyment.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, Patrice, thank you so much for doing this with me.
Oh, this was so fun. Thank you.
Yeah, for me too. A big honor.
Oh,
thank you so much.
My pleasure. Continued success with the podcast and all of your music and what you're doing. I checked you out. You sound good.
Oh, wow. Thank you.
Yeah, you sound good.
Wow, I wasn't expecting this.
Yeah.
Wow, this is very nice. Thank you. Also, I would love to see you in person sometime soon. So I hope you get to come to Germany at some point.
Please, man, I would love to come. So any influence that you have with concert promoters or club owners or whatever like that, I would love to come.
I'll do my best.
All right, my friend.
Let's keep in touch. Thank you so much for this. And
let me know. Let me know too. What you're up to. I feel like I've made a new friend.
Oh, likewise. Likewise.